Welcome to Silver Bar Stacker, folks. I hope everybody's doing well and enjoying their Sunday. That's right, folks. Today is Sunday, and we've got a large one for you today, folks. That's right. We're going to be talking about 100-ounce bars today, and specifically 100-ounce Engelhard bars. And the reason we're going to be talking about that is because one of our fellow YouTubers, AGAU Addict, he actually brought to my attention a very important piece of information about one of the bars, the 100-ounce bars in particular, that we had featured on the silverbarstacker.com website. And because of this, I had to actually give him a shout out in the listing because it was a very, very important finding, and it was something that I had actually overlooked prior to listing the bar on the website. And so the bar was in question that I'm actually talking about is this bar. So I'm very excited to tell you a little bit more about this bar and what the finding was that AGAU Addict had brought to my attention, and kind of what the result was of him telling me that information, and kind of what I did after he told me that, in addition to kind of giving him a shout on the actual listing itself. But this ended up being actually an extremely special bar, much more special than I had actually originally realized. And so I'm excited to talk to you about that. We'll also kind of cover some of the more common examples of 100-ounce Engelhard bars, but there's still not probably a whole bunch of these out there because, over the past few decades, a lot of the 100-ounce bars in particular were melted down, right? Whenever companies or individuals kind of needed to make things out of silver, 100-ounce bars are kind of the easiest things to sort of melt down, in the sense that it's kind of like nobody really cares about them. They're kind of just seen as like it's very easy to melt down and you repurpose because it's a pure chunk of silver, as opposed to if you kind of have like a bunch of scrap and it's just mixed purity, it's not as useful, right? It's not as useful at all. So a lot of times these were the types of things that would just be thrown into melters to kind of repurpose into maybe 101-ounce bars, for example. So prior to the recent times, even things like this were looked at generics, and even still today you can get, especially kind of the more common Engelhard bars, you can get these very, very close to spot. I mean, you just have to pay a slight premium compared to a normal 100-ounce bar. And I don't know if you've looked at prices for 100-ounce bars, but generally speaking, you only have to pay a couple of bucks above spot for a 100-ounce bar, generic, right? And so if you tack on a few more bucks, then you're looking at a very reasonable premium still for vintage, very nice vintage 100-ounce bar. In a lot of cases, you can get lower vintage 100-ounce bars for very good price, a very reasonable price. And so I would say the best bang for your buck is definitely 100-ounce bars. But you also got to look at the flip side as a seller, right? A lot of companies, it's not that they won't take a 100-ounce bar. Most of the time they will take the 100-ounce bar as long as it's verified and everything like that. However, they're not going to give you a huge premium. But on the flip side, you didn't pay a huge premium. So that's kind of the trade-off. That's why a lot of people like the 100-ounce bars, because they don't have to pay a huge premium. They can get something nice, and they don't have to pay a huge premium. Plus, on the flip side, they don't have to worry too much about it because they're going to expect to get a lower premium for it as well. So it's kind of something to consider. When you're looking at a P2P sale, on the other hand, most individuals are not going to have the funds or be willing and able to buy a 100-ounce bar. And so like if you're selling P2P, sometimes you might get more money out of it. But in the case of 100-ounce bars, if you're trying to sell P2P, you might end up having to kind of go to a normal dealer or something like that to actually trade that in for what it's worth, because the P2P transactions, like is your buddy always going to be willing and able to buy a 100-ounce bar? Maybe not, right? So that, in that sense, things like 100-ounce bars are kind of a little bit less liquid. So that's kind of something that I wanted to touch on as well when it comes to 100-ounce bars, just generally speaking. Because I used to be all about like, oh yeah, let's go buy industrial bars and nothing but it. And I even had an industrial bar at one point. If you look at one of my first videos ever, they were terrible videos, so don't spend too much time watching them. But if you look at one of my earlier videos, there's actually a large, almost 1,000 ounce. There's like 997 ounce industrial bar that I had bought. It was crazy. There's a video of it. But and I did pay a very, very low premium for that. But I also sold it at a very low premium as well. So it was just a very impractical bar, and I'm so thankful that it wasn't over 1,000 ounces, because the fact that it was under 1,000 ounces just slightly was a blessing, because actually when it comes down to like registered mail and shipping stuff via registered mail via USPS, you can't ship stuff over 70 pounds. So once you get over the 1,000 ounce mark, it becomes extremely impractical what you're dealing with, right? So that's another thing to consider as well. I just went off on a huge tangent. In addition to 100 ounce bars, something else that I want to talk about was, of course, my weekly Whatnot auction. That's something that I've not really been doing a great job of updating people about, but I am trying to get better. If you have noticed on the social media platforms, I have been trying to get better with my marketing to try to let people know what's happening, kind of keep them informed about sales that might be happening, deals that might be available, new products that might be available on the silverbarstacker.com website. I also want to start kind of informing you about some of the things that you might have missed out on the weekly Whatnot auctions, and the things that you can kind of look forward to on the weekly Whatnot auctions. And so today I'm actually going to be introducing a very, very new and exciting thing, which I'm hoping will get people excited about the whole auction process, because sometimes auctions can get very dry, right? Especially if the person who's holding the auction is not very exciting, right? Then it's very, very boring. And if they don't have very nice stuff, then it's also very boring. And a third thing is that if it's not like kind of like fun, then it's also not exciting. So I'm trying to gamify my auctions a little bit more, on top of being a little bit more personal, and having nice stuff, right? And on the third hand, I'm also trying to gamify it a little bit. And so I thought, everybody kind of, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people are kind of familiar with my whole idea of like stack packs, right? Everyone understands that there's such a thing as a stack pack, and it's basically something that would be like in a top loader. It might have a sticker on top of there, or it might kind of be like a serialized stack pack with a little, customized Silver Bar Stacker label there on the top to seal the contents inside within the stack pack. There will be something inside there. In this case, just an example, but you might have like a Benjamin Franklin $50 in there. Rarely would you see something like that in a SBS stack pack, because we don't really specialize in junk silver, but you might have things like a vintage bar or something like that. So like premium 1 ounce silver round, something like that. So, and then on the back, sometimes what you'll see, this isn't on all stack packs, but sometimes what you'll see is you'll have a little information tag on the back that kind of explains what's inside the stack pack, right? So if you got like a 1 million minted Johnson Matthey bar, it might say that, and it's like, oh yeah, it's a Johnson Matthey bar, 1 million minted, 1 ounce of silver, blah blah blah. Cool. So that's kind of what a stack pack is. And so what I wanted to do is kind of like reintroduce that concept of stack packs, but I want to reintroduce it in a gamified and fun way. So I'm actually going to be reintroducing it as mystery stack packs. And so each week on Whatnot, I'm going to actually have an auction where I'm going to basically be having a product pool. I'm going to have a pool. In this case, for today's auction, for example, I've got a pool of 50 items. Okay, there's 50 potential items. They're all going to be sold off hopefully today. We're going to throw all those products into the initial prize pool, and each item has their own odds, right? So for example, the Benjamin Franklin $50, as an example, that one has an odds of 14%. So there's a 14% chance that you're going to end up drawing a 1948 Benjamin Franklin $50, either with a D mint mark or no mint mark. That's just what the odds are today. If you want to take part in the auction, there's a chance you might end up with a Benjamin Franklin $50 that's a first year, pretty low mintage, 3 or 4 million minted Benjamin Franklin $50 first year Benji. Okay, 14% chance you end up with a circulated Benji if you want to take part. If you don't want to take part, cool. There's no way you'll end up with that piece of junk. Well, what else could you end up with? You might end up with a 1 ounce Geiger 4/9 fine or square copper bar. What are your chances of winning something like this? Do you even want something like this? Well, if you take part in the auction, you may end up with it, for better or for worse. And your chances of getting a 1 ounce Geiger copper square is 16%. Now, I don't know what you're going to have to pay, right? Because there's going to be potentially 50 auctions that we run today. We'll see how they go. We'll start with maybe 5 and then we'll see how they go. But I'm hoping that we'll go through all 50 items in the product pool and we'll sell through every single item in the product pool. And each one is going to be auctioned off one at a time, right? So you might have the first auction close at $5. Who knows? In that case, you might end up drawing a 1 ounce copper bar, so you may end up getting a copper bar, 1 ounce copper bar for $5. Or what might end up happening is people get super excited about the first, mystery stack pack that has ever been auctioned off ever in life, and maybe it gets bid up to $50. I don't know. It's possible. Anything is possible. So maybe it gets bid up to $50. In that case, what if you draw a 1 ounce copper bar? Well, my friend, you have just drawn a $50 mystery unserialized stack pack with a 1 ounce copper bar in it. And you took an L, for sure. You took an L on that one, for sure. Now, there's also an even greater chance, an 18% chance instead of a 16% chance. There's an 18% chance that you end up with a 2 ounce Geiger copper bar. These are all the tier 3 packs, so these don't seem like very exciting stack packs, and that's because they're not. These aren't even serialized stack packs, so these are just going to have a little sticker on top of them, or in the case of the copper bars, those are such thick things you can't even fit them in a stack pack, so you're not even going to get them in a stack pack. You're just going to get the copper bar on its own, right, loose, right? So all these tier 3 stack packs, none of them are serialized. So in the case of these ones, this is 10 1 gram Valcambi Swiss silver bars. It'll be 10 1 gram silver bars kind of stuck together, right? So for that's also not going to be serialized. I mean, there's 10 of those in the prize pool. Out of 50, there's a very, very high likelihood. In fact, this is the most likely thing that you are to draw is 10 grams of 3/9 fine silver. And so that should kind of be your, I wouldn't say your median point, but that's kind of like the most likely thing that you're going to end up with. So I'm not going to say that you should, bid, whatever you're comfortable bidding for 10 grams of silver, but more than likely you're going to end up with this. You might even get something that's valued cheaper than this. I mean, I don't know what you value a Benjamin Franklin $50 at, or what you value 10 grams of bullion, pure bullion at. I value these around 20, but we've sold some of these for nearly half that price on auction. So I don't know, at least on Whatnot, people value things very, very low. I don't think, half of $20 or whatever is the true value of a freaking Benji. I think they have a little bit of numismatic value even in circulated condition, but to each their own. I know what I paid, which is around $20. So some people might value a Benji at $20, and some people might value 10 grams of pure bullion at $20, or maybe they value this at $15, or maybe they value this at $30, right? I mean, I know that when we sell single grams of silver, then we sell them for $3 a gram, so that would be $30 for 10 grams of silver, right? So that's just the way that I look at it. It's all in the eye of the beholder, but of course everything has a current market price as well. So anyways, the tier 3 packs, you can kind of, if you're trying to ballpark a valuation for them, any of these tier 3 packs, if you end up drawing them, they kind of are in the $10 to $20 range, I would say. I mean, based off of my valuation, my rough valuation, if you draw any of these tier 3 packs, it's going to be around the $10 to $20 range in my opinion. Now, these are the most likely things that you're going to draw, okay? Now, then we move on to the tier 2 packs. Now, the tier 2 packs are going to be a little bit of a step up, of course, and that's where we start to get into the little bit nicer stuff. So, for example here, a Shack Frack stack pack. Now, this is something that's going to be changing on a weekly basis. Each week, you're going to have random Shaquille O'Neal sports card, and it's going to be paired with some premium fractional silver. So this isn't going to be some Volcombi stuff. It's not going to be, some very, very cheap stuff. It's going to be a higher tier thing. So each Shaq Track stack pack is going to be roughly valued around the $20 to $50 range, right? Now, that's not talking melt value. That's talking about like on the secondary market, right? So for example, like Johnson Matthey 1 gram silver bars, those are actually serialized and 10,000 minted. Those are very, very rare and very hard to find, and those actually usually sell at higher premiums, for example, than the 5 gram Johnson Matthey bars, which are 100,000 minted, right? And a little bit more readily available, right? So on the Shaq Track stack pack, you may end up with something like a 5 gram Johnson Matthey bar, right? Or you might even end up with something like a 1 gram Johnson Matthey bar. Both of those are valued in the $20 to $50 range for sure. Definitely. Those regularly sell in the $20 to $50 range, and so a Shaq Track stack pack might end up having something like that, just as an example. It might have like a 10th ounce prospector round, for example, because those are generally like, in the $30 range, at least. So a Shaq Track stack pack is not going to have your run-of-the-mill fractional silver. It's going to have some sort of a premium silver piece paired with, also you're going to be getting a random Shaquille O'Neal sports card. That might be just a throwaway base card. It might be some crazy rare Shaq card that is valued more than the silver piece inside the stack pack itself, right? So you never know. It's a complete mystery, and the likelihood of honestly drawing a Shaq Track stack pack is very, very slim to none. Each time, at least this time, it's a 6% chance that you're going to draw a Shaq Track stack pack. And if you tune into today's auction event, I'm going to run through kind of the items in the prize pool like I'm doing now, but I'm going to actually show you what are the actual Shaq Track stack packs that you may draw, right? And we're going to draw them in the particular order. There's 3 of them in the prize pool, so there's 3 chances that you can draw a Shaq Track stack pack, and one of them might be cooler than the other. So that's a tier 2 draw that you can grab. Another tier 2 draw that you can grab is something like a vintage 1 ounce silver bar. So maybe like a Johnson Matthey bar or an Engelhard bar, something like that. Sunshine Mining bar. Any sort of a vintage bar that you kind of typically see, like especially on the website. More than likely it'll be something featured already on the website. So that'll kind of be a good indicator of the type of things that you can expect to see inside. This will kind of change every week. I'll try to switch it up so it's not the same exact stuff here, but there'll be a prize pool, and you'll know what's in the prize pool each week when I kind of go through the prize pool. But we're going to have a 8% chance that you're going to draw a vintage 1 ounce bar, so that's pretty cool. So that'll just be maybe like your E-logo bars, one of those horizontal landscape bars for Engelhard, or one of those I've got a lot of those sealed Johnson Matthey serialized bars, things like that. That's the type of bar that you can expect to receive if you draw one of these vintage 1 ounce silver bar tier 2 packs. There's also vintage 1 ounce silver rounds in there as well that you could potentially draw, and that chances of drawing this is slightly higher. You've got about a 10% chance of drawing one of these bad boys. So there's actually 5 vintage rounds here. Things like Engelhard Prospector round, Johnson Matthey Bill of Rights round, things like that. Those are the types of things that you can expect to draw or receive if you draw one of those cards. So those are the tier 2 options. And then finally, we've also got a couple, just very, very few. Chances of drawing these are very slim. We also got your tier 1 cards. So there's only one of these. It's an MJ420 stack pack, and MJ420, just kind of like my Shaq Track stack packs, MJ420 stack pack is going to be a Michael Jordan sports card that is numbered 420. Actually, this is a stack pack line specifically dedicated towards Michael Jordan sports cards that have the number 420 assigned to it. So you're going to receive a Michael Jordan sports card with the number 420 attached to it, and you're going to receive some sort of a Michael Jordan piece, like metals piece. It could be like a bronze piece, a silver piece, aluminum piece. I've got some Space Jam tokens, so like that's something that you'll have to see. This will change. Sometimes it'll be something very cheap. Sometimes it might be a crazy rare one-of-a-kind Michael Jordan piece. I mean, I've got some Michael Jordan collectibles that are worth a lot of money, hundreds of dollars for a single Michael Jordan. Like it might be like, I've got like these 4-ounce Michael Jordan rounds, for example. Silver rounds, pure silver rounds, 4 ounces. So, and it comes with a certificate of authenticity. It comes inside a box. So I've got some crazy cool Michael Jordan stuff, and I've also got some throwaway stuff. So each week we'll feature a new Michael Jordan product paired with a Michael Jordan sports card, and there will be one chance basically every week to win that Michael Jordan MJ420 stack pack, for better or for worse. Maybe you'll be gunning after it, maybe you'll be praying that you don't receive it. That will depend on the eye of the beholder, of course, as well. So that's one of your tier 1 opportunities. Another tier 1 opportunity is going to be a premium 1-ounce silver bar. And so this, unlike the vintage 1-ounce silver bars that you have in the tier 2 category, this will also be a vintage 1-ounce silver bar, but it'll be a premium 1-ounce silver bar. And so when I say premium, I mean it's going to be pretty low mintage, right? I mean, I'm talking like you might have something that instead of it being like 100,000 minted or 500,000 minted or 1 million minted, you might have something that's like 25,000 minted or 5,000 minted or 500 minted, right? You might have, there's only going to be one featured each week, so you'll have to see what's being featured that week. But sometimes it might be a $50 bar, or a $100 bar. Sometimes it might be a $500 bar. So that's something to consider as well. The prize pools kind of fluctuate, but generally what you can expect is that for the tier 2 bars, that the valuation will be between like $20 and $50, and for the tier 1 bars and rounds, you're going to have something in the valuation of $50 or more. So this is going to be something that's premium. Like it's going to be like double spot, right? When I talk $50, right now spot's like less than 25, right? So I'm talking about something very premium, something lower mintage, something that carries a premium, right? So one of your maple leaf bars, one of those unserialized Engelhard bars, one of the rarer types of Johnson Matthey bars, maybe a Coors Light bar, right? So instead of a normal Sunshine Mining bar, maybe you get your Coors Light bar. So things like that, those are the types of things that you can expect to see in the premium 1-ounce silver bar. Sometimes we might run some crazy promos. We might have some crazy tier 1 or tier 2 Engelhard bars in there, right? Or Johnson Matthey bars in there. So you'll have to pay attention to what's kind of in the prize pool. You have to join in each week at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and see what's happening, and only then will you really have a full understanding of what's in the actual product pool. So you got your 1-ounce premium silver bar. There's only one chance to grab this. There's only one chance to grab an MJ420 stack pack, and you've got 2 chances to draw a premium 1-ounce silver round. Okay, so this might be something like a Hoffman and Hoffman round, or one of the rare Engelhard rounds, one of the rare Johnson Matthey rounds, and one of those Statue of Liberty MTB rounds. You've got a lot of kind of obscure, rarer rounds than your typical Prospector round or your typical Johnson Matthey Bill of Rights round. So this is where you can expect to grab something a little bit more high premium. Okay, so the tier 1 category is for that. Hope that all makes sense to you. There's 50 stack packs available here. I went through the odds with you. There's a 2% chance for the MJ420 stack pack, a 2% chance here on the silver bar, premium silver bar, and a 4% chance on the premium silver rounds. So that's exciting stuff. And just as an added bonus, just to incentivize the people who are actually taking part in this, I also have a few freebies that will randomly be drawn. And basically what happens is if you draw a freebie, you end up getting the free item, which is, in this case, each of them is 1 gram of silver. So you'll get the free gram of silver, in this case 1 gram maple leaf silver bar. Cool. I just won this 1 gram maple leaf silver bar. Now I get to draw another one. Who knows, maybe you might draw an extra silver bar and then you get 2 silver bars. That would be really cool, but very unlikely, But there's 5 chances to draw a free piece of silver, and then you also get an extra draw. So you're not just ending up with a freaking gram of silver for the $50 that you bid the auction up to. You'll take the free gram of silver with you, and then you'll get to draw another, hopefully nice item that you wanted. Okay, so that's how the mystery stack pack rarity list kind of works. These are the freebie items. There's a maple leaf bar, you got a USA flag bar, you got a silver bar stacker, SBS slim stacker. This is our proprietary 1 gram silver bar. We've also got a 1 gram prospector silver round, just a generic, and then you've got yourself a 1 gram Bitcoin silver bar. So that's what we have for the freebies. So I'm thinking, I'm hoping at least that this will kind of gamify things a little bit more and will make things a little bit more interesting for everybody. And so that's kind of what my end game was. And in addition to that, I think we should talk about these 100-ounce bars that I had set aside here. And we'll try to cover that quickly. Now, here you've got yourself a I've organized these just now with rarity, get yourself a tier 1 actually. I was under the impression actually that this is a tier 3 Engelhard bar, and that's what I had it listed as, but it's actually a tier 1, and I'll explain why that's the case. These both here are tier 5 actually. Yeah, this is a 375,000 minted bar. Now, there are not 375,000 of these floating around out there, for sure. Many of these, a huge, and I would say more than 50% definitely of these 100-ounce bars have been melted down over the decades. Okay, now this is going to be a 375,000 minted bar. Now the reason I really like this is because this actually comes in the original plastic wrap. So this is what the original plastic wrap looked like on these Engelhard bars that have the triangle under the A. They came in this American flag plastic wrap. This plastic wrap is very, very flimsy, so it's actually already started tearing on me a little bit here because I'm an idiot and I don't take care of things sometimes. So, and it also was transported to me in such a way, but it's very, I just want to show you this before I break it, what it all says on here. You got 100 troy-ounce silver bar, the American tradition in precious metals, Engelhard, American flag. So that's pretty sweet. Now, I'm definitely more of a poured guy, but I like to have an example of the machine stuff, and this is a very, very nice example. At least out of the examples that I've seen, it's a very nice example. So let's take a look at this. So over here you got a smooth machine finish on this bar, which is very cool. It's just so refined and clean. Now, I was speaking to this shop near me, and they had a couple Engelhard 100-ounce bars in stock, and I was asking a little bit about them, and I actually really wanted to pick one of them up because there was one that was like a 10,000 minted bar, and I really wanted it, but they never ended up holding it for me and transferring it for me like I had asked them to, and I think it ended up selling. So anyways, that's not a huge deal. The lady there was saying that she prefers these machined Engelhard bars more, and I think she's a noob because I think, definitely the poured ones carry a higher premium, so definitely that's, definitely true. Definitely they're more desirable by collectors, the poured ones. She was saying, I like how smooth and refined they are. I do actually like that about these ones. I love how this freaking serial number is so legendary. P717177. How freaking amazing is that serial number? Now, in addition to the smooth finish, the reason I like this bar so much is because you get to see how nice of a chunk they took out of this. So look at this little refined slice here on this end. Isn't that awesome? This is why I really love this example so much. In addition to the serial number, you got one example of a smooth side, and you've got one example of a rigid side, and not all examples are like this. So I found this to be a very, very beautiful example, and on top of that, it's in the original packaging. So yeah, it's a high vintage bar, but I don't think you'll find too many examples like this one. So that's a 375,000 minted bar. This one right here is a 300,000 minted bar. Now the reason I like this one, also a smooth machined finished bar, so it's not got any like unique imperfections or anything like that, and it's kind of like pretty symmetrical all the way around the bar, right? So there's nothing amazing about it in that sense, but out of the bars that I've come across, I felt that this was a very, very nice serial number, a very low serial number and a very nice serial number, 4 repeating ones and plus a reverse 6-9, also known as a 9-6. So I like this one a lot. It's a nice example of a more common Engelhard 100-ounce bar. Now, on to the Holy Grail. This, as you can see, is not a machined finish. It's not a smooth machined finish. It's a much more rustic looking bar. This is a cast board bar, actually. Engelhard. And I had mistakenly identified this as a 6th series. This is actually a 5th series bar. And the reason that this is a 5th series bar, thanks to AGAU Addict for pointing this out, and the reason this is not a 10,000 minted bar and a 100 minted bar, because that plus sign, see, like if you look at this plus sign as an example, you'll have a bar that looks exactly like this, cast board and everything, but it'll have a smaller plus, it'll have a smaller plus like that. Okay, that's the 10,000 minted. Now if you find one that has a larger plus, now you're looking at a 100 minted. So I was saying, oh, this is such a low serial number. Well, that's even lower. You got an even lower serial number here, P033284. Now, take a look at this. Very nice, right? Much more rustic looking around the edges. Much more rustic looking around the edges. And finally, the reason why this example, in addition to it being such a low mintage, highly sought after bar, is it's a waffle back. So you've got a nice waffling pattern there on the back as well. So this right here is an extremely beautiful example of an Engelhard Tier 1 100-ounce bar. It's probably the nicest bar that I have, and AGAU Addict was telling me, he's like, well, are you ever just, do you ever just like keep things? Like, do you ever think like maybe you might just want to keep that bar? And so it was what I was telling him, and what I've told other individuals, like I've told me and Silverstruck were talking about this at one point, and I've told many individuals this actually, is that, of course I'm going to keep things. I mean, I stack to keep these items for my personal stack, but everything, of course, has a price, right? So as soon as I was informed by AGAU Addict, before he asked me that question, like, hey, are you ever just going to keep things, I had already increased the price another $1,000, because to me, the fact that this new finding about this bar, I just realized, okay, I want this bar badly now. I just want to keep this bar. I don't want to give this up. Of course, everything can be given up for a price, and so my instinct was, okay, I'm increasing the price by $1,000. It was, it was listed at around double spot, and then I increased another $1,000, and that was my answer to AGAU Addict. I mean, I don't want to get rid of this, and I've got this bar priced to not sell now. That's what I told him. I've got the bar priced to not sell, and so that's your answer, is that no, I don't really want to give it up. But if there's somebody who really, really wants it, I want to make it available, right? I want to make it available. If there's somebody out there who wants to pay the hefty premium for the bar, and they really need to have that to their collection for whatever reason, there is a price, that you will give something up for, right? And so maybe the price that I might let this one go for might be different than the price I'll let this one go for, but in my view, everything kind of has a price, and so that's what I did. And it was funny, AGAU Addict was telling me, he's like, well, I actually saw a bar exactly like this that was listed for like $6,000 or something like that, and I was just like, well, I'm glad, and my bar should look like a steal, because my bar is not $6,000. My bar is not listed for $6,000. So, I guess maybe the person who's in the market for one of these might look at my bar as a steal, because certainly it is not $6,000. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. I'm so sorry for the long video once again, and I hope you guys and gals can tune in to today's serialized mystery stack pack auction. And one thing I forgot to mention, folks, is that the tier 2 and the tier 3 bars, those are actually going to be serialized. So right here you've got your seal numbers, and so the seal is not just going to be a normal silver bar stacker sticker, it's going to actually be a serialized seal. So you've got your SBS 0000001 all the way. I think we're going to be going through 10 or 12, I think maybe 12 serialized stack packs or so we'll be going through today, something like that. So keep that in mind as well. Maybe you might not care about that now, but maybe on the 10th mystery serialized stack pack auction event, maybe the serial numbers might matter later, or maybe there might be some perks coming down the line for people who possess certain serialized stack packs. So you might also want to hold on to your serialized stack packs and keep them intact, because you never know, there might be some perks down the line. Cheers.